Hi, everyone. So I'm going to use a mic only to make sure that, because we are recording this, and I want to make sure that we capture the content as we go through, because I want to be able to post this for those who can't attend, and in case anybody wants to see the demo. So try to be as inclusive as possible, making sure it's available. So that's the need for the mic. I don't normally need a mic. So my name is Lori Rank. I'm the Dean of Learning Resources here at De Anza. Some of you I've met, some of you I haven't. Thank you for being here today. We never know how many people are going to turn out when we do an open call, but I think it's really important that we show you Canvas. It is something that the Academic Senate and others are looking at in terms of a course management system. How many of you use Catalyst or have used Catalyst? Okay. So that's our current course management system. It's hosted locally. It's built on Moodle. So this would be looking at Canvas as a replacement for Catalyst. Some of you have asked about the timeline. And the timeline, should we adopt this as a decision-making process, right? We're putting it out to all of you, giving you lots of information to vet, to look through, to learn about, to ask questions. With that process, should we move in that direction, we would be looking at, we have a gradual timeline. It's not a stop-start timeline, not stop one, start another. You run both at the same time for up to a year, just so you can move courses over and work on getting those courses into the new system. And that's with any new system. You run them at the same time. So I can talk more about timeline later, but I just wanted to kind of alleviate any fears about that right off the bat. But how many of you have heard about the Online Education Initiative for the state of California? Okay, I have some takers, good. So the Online Ed Initiative is a multi-year, many dollar initiative in the millions, in the like 60 million? 77 million over 5 years. And there's a number, and really this is about community colleges and providing resources to community colleges for online students and also for students in our systems. And there's a number of pieces that the OEI folks, the staff and the people involved in OEI, all the governance groups that are involved, have put together. There are faculty resources, there are student resources, there are all kinds of support services. And there is a little bit more about the OEI on the Canvas webpage for De Anza. So if you've noticed when we've sent out information, it's come from Mayra. If you look through that, you'll see an OEI webpage. You can learn more about all of those resources. One of those resources, though, is a course management system, a common course management system. So when we talk about a course management system, it is a repository, but it can be much more. What the OEI folks have done, and Joe can talk more about this if you all want to know more, they spend a lot of time looking at different course management systems and evaluating and assessing and vetting with a number of constituent groups across the state, including students, when they enter this process for a course management system. One thing I would note is that they were looking for a partner, not simply a vendor, but someone who would work with California community colleges, somebody who would tie in with our goals and really focus on student success. And through that process of reviewing and evaluating and having conversations and having day-long meetings, the Common Course Management System that came out in the mix was Canvas for a number of reasons. And I think you're going to see some of those reasons today, so you get a better sense of why a number of community colleges have adopted this already. I think over 65 have adopted. Out of the 113 community colleges in the state have adopted Canvas. So this is just some background for you about the context for why we're even entering in this conversation. So I think it's really important when there's an opportunity to look at a resource that we look at one and that we take a good look as a campus and see how it could benefit our students, how it interacts with students and faculty, what benefits it has, what drawbacks it has, what questions that we might have in order to make an informed decision. So you will have a chance to give your feedback, and you can do that here, although I have a piece of paper I'll hand you on the way out or a little bit later, so you can fill out a form online so we can at least capture that and capture comments. We presented to Academic Senate, Classified Senate, Instructional Deans, and DASB about 2 weeks ago. So kind of doing the traveling roadshow to make sure people understand what Canvas is all about. As Dean of Learning Resources, my role is neutral. I want to support what the campus needs. And I really think it's important to take a hard look at different resources. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our Canvas representatives, Eddie and Dave, who are here to kind of share with us. I think we have such a small group. Are you guys okay with repeating the question? Then that way we can capture it for the video feed. And when we post it online, at least we have that record. So they're going to take you through this and give you a little bit of background on Instructure, which is the parent company, and then also go through Canvas so you learn a little bit more about the actual tool, the course management tool. Okay? Okay. Dave, it's all you.
So I'm sure you guys have heard of Canvas and maybe even the company that actually makes the product, Instructure, right? Even our shirts don't say Instructure because nobody knows it. They just know Canvas. Does anybody know the story, though? How it got founded, where it came from? Excellent, a fresh audience. So we were founded by 2 students, right? They were in an entrepreneurship class in their master's program, and they were challenged to come up with a business idea, right? And they were in their master's program at a major university, BYU in Utah, and they said, we're technologists, so let's find a piece of technology that's terrible, and that can be our business plan. And immediately, being students, they were like, oh God, we have to do the LMS. So they came up with their plan, they took it to their instructor, and he thought they actually had something. So they were all set, these are technologists, they were programmers, they were ready to sit down and start building something. And he said, no, you have to go out and actually talk to the people who would be your customers. So they went out, they got into their little cheap Ford Fiesta or Honda Civic or whatever beat up old car they had as poor grad students, and they went all along Utah, all along California, and they met with schools, right, folks just like yourselves, and they found out that the number one thing people hated about the LMS at that time was just using it, right? It was hard to use. Sometimes it was so hard to use that they just wouldn't use it. Faculty would just say, I'm not even going to do my class in this. Right? And then from the faculty who were willing to use it, the number 2 complaint was it's never available. It's down, it's being updated, it's being patched, there's always something wrong, right? So they felt like it wasn't reliable. So they brought all this research back, and that professor, Josh Coates, he actually became the CEO of Instructure. So he's really been with us, the idea, the whole formation of what we stood for since the very beginning. So those 2 ideas, right, usability and reliability, became the kind of cornerstone, the foundation of what eventually became Canvas. And that's continued to this day. So part of our company has always been openness, right? The code is open source. We adhere to open edtech standards like LTI and QTI and Common Cartridge. Our API is completely open. All of our documentation is public, right? Whenever we add new functionality, we always want to go out, meet with our customers, meet with people who are going to use these features. I've actually only been with Instructure for about a year. Before that, I was a customer for 2.5 years, and I was actually on 2 different product cycles where a new bit of functionality was going to be added in. So they found partner institutions that met kind of the profile of what that feature was looking to solve, right? So I've been exactly where you guys are. I was faculty teaching. I was an administrator that helped migrate from a legacy LMS onto Canvas. So I've gone through this, right? I've been in the audience and been talking to somebody else who was up on the stage. So what I want to do today for you guys, because it sounds like we have a mix in the room, people who are using the old system and some people who aren't, is that right? So what I really want to emphasize for you guys as I'm sharing Canvas with you is what it's like to use it, right? Because we believe the user experience really makes the difference. They all have assignments, they all have quizzes, they all have discussions, right? These are things we just expect the LMS to have. So what really makes them different is what is it like to use them? And what we've seen is that by focusing on what it's like to use Canvas, for you guys as instructors and for your students taking these courses, is that adoptability goes way up. Across the board, we have studies from our customers, right? These are not studies we commissioned. These are not studies we paid for. There's no shenanigans going on. Our customers have actually surveyed their own faculty and found that once Canvas was introduced, not only were more faculty using it than had been using their old system, but they were using it more deeply. So where some people were just putting up their syllabus or maybe a few discussions, now they have lectures in there, now they have quizzes in there, now they're doing all their assignments and all their grading through there, the gradebook, right? Communication with their students, all this stuff that they couldn't do before, or even if they could, it was just so clunky, it didn't feel like it was worth doing. So we definitely won't be able to get to everything, right? It's a big platform, there's lots and lots of stuff you can do with Canvas. What I would like to invite you to do though, as we're going through, is anything I'm showing or anything you guys have questions about, please feel free to ask questions while we're going. Like Lori said, I will repeat those for the folks on the recording, so don't feel obligated to jump up and grab a microphone. I'll do my best to paraphrase what you said. But yeah, so anything that comes up while we're going through, interactive. I know it's warm outside, unusually warm for San Francisco. It's getting late in the day. I don't want anybody falling asleep on me. So what you're looking at here, this is the Canvas dashboard. So everybody who is a Canvas user just has one account, right? So that's why you usually hear me say Canvas user, not a faculty or a student or an admin, because I can have multiple roles. So if I'm a teacher over here and I'm a TA over there and I'm co-instructing over here and I'm taking this course as professional development, I don't have to have a different login for each of those. I just have one account. So this is the same dashboard I would see if I was a student or a teacher or a student and a teacher. And what you're seeing in these color boxes are my current courses. So something you'll notice about Canvas when I talk about user experience is we want it to do the things you would want it to do, behave the way you would want it to behave. So the courses that I'm seeing on my dashboard, these are my current courses. When these courses are concluded, they will go away. When new courses are added, so say next term comes around, those courses show up. And I can customize this, so if there's a certain course I always want to see or I never want to see, I can control that, but I'm not having to micromanage which of my courses show up because the expectation is you want to see your current courses, not your courses from 6 semesters ago. The to-do list is the same kind of idea. We're showing you all the things you have to do. So as an instructor, you would see items like an assignment that was submitted needs to be graded, or a student posted to a discussion, you might want to go check that out. Or there's a quiz that has an essay question. So we couldn't auto-grade that essay question. You might want to go in there and look at that. And these are actually live links. So I can press on any of these and it'll take me directly to the grading interface for that submission, right? So right here, I only have one submission, so it'll take me right to that student. Likewise, for a student, I'm going to see things on my to-do list like, you need to turn in this assignment. You need to take this quiz. You should probably post to this discussion. And then once those things are done, once I've done that grading, once I've submitted that assignment, they come off the to-do list automatically. So I'm not having to add things onto this, and I'm not having to take things off to this. It's just showing me what's useful, when it's useful. When it's no longer useful, it goes away. Before I go into a specific course, though, I want to look at my calendar. So the calendar in Canvas is a global calendar. I understand you guys are in Office 365, Microsoft Shop, so you're probably all familiar with Outlook. You can see on the right here, I have one calendar for each course that I'm in, and I can toggle those on and off so that I can see multiple courses at once, or I can see just an individual course. I've toggled off most of them because these demonstration courses are unreasonably compact. So it's a little more overwhelming than hopefully your real courses are. But what you can see here is all of the material for this Intro to Psychology course that I'm viewing, and it's the same color that we saw a minute ago on the dashboard, so those colors are consistent. Those are also consistent on the mobile, so if you're using our free Android app or the iOS app on your smartphone or on your tablet, those colors are consistent. Those colors are also personal, so I decide what color I see, but if I'm in your class, you might see a different color than the one that I see, right? And this calendar has some cool kind of convenience features built in. So I can look at any of these items and see all the instructions for an assignment. If there's any media, like a picture or a document or a video or something that's in the description, I can see that as well. Because I'm an instructor, I can actually go directly to editing or delete this item from right on the calendar. And if you're the kind of person who really thinks chronologically, like every single week should have a quiz on Friday, I can actually stub out my entire course by adding new assignments and things from right on the calendar. So you can really start to kind of get the skeleton for your course going without even going into the course shell. And then I think one of the faculty favorite features, there's a few things that people really look forward to just because they are a big convenience factor, is if I'm looking at this and I say, oh, I have something due on Saturday here. I don't normally make work due on Saturday. I must have done that by mistake, and I want to change this due date. I just click and drag, and now the due date for that assignment has changed, right? So my students' to-do list has been updated. They're going to get a notification that that changed. The syllabus, the modules, anywhere in Canvas that due date shows, it's now been updated, right? So I don't have to go into each individual place that might be. I just know that by changing it, it's changed everywhere. And then the last thing that's on the calendar that I'll highlight is this feed. So if you guys are used to using Outlook, you'd like to be able to just see all of your calendars together, you can actually feed your Canvas calendar information out to whatever external tool you're used to using, and then anything that changes in Canvas, it'll push out to that calendar, right? So if you want to do the cool interactive stuff, obviously you have to use your Canvas calendar, but if you just want to see those dates in line with maybe personal appointments or other things you might have on your calendar, you can pull that data out. Another part of being an open company, being a platform company, is your stuff, right? Your data, your course content, that all belongs to you. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to get that stuff out and use it in whatever way is useful to you. One other thing I forgot to mention while I was on the dashboard here is not only can I customize these colors, but I can also actually give courses nicknames. So I can say, the one with that one kid, you know the one, right? And now that's private just to me. So the one kid, he's not gonna see that, right? The admins, even if I have a co-instructor, they're not gonna see that nickname. That nickname's just for me. My students can give the courses nicknames too, so who knows what they're calling our courses, right? But this way, this is a management thing that helps you stay organized and you don't have to worry about it being friendly for everyone. Question? So the question was, is the appearance of Canvas consistent across, so browsers and mobile, two slightly different things, right? So browsers, yes, we support the big four, so that's Internet Explorer / Edge, and then Firefox, Chrome, and Safari. So that is officially tested to behave the same in all of those browsers and look the same. The branding you're seeing right here, the color of the bar over here, and the Canvas logo, right? Obviously, that would be customized for you guys. So the question for the recording folks was, how are to-do list items multiples of the same item grouped? So it's you can see right here, this is actually the number 10. So if I'm getting multiple submissions to a single assignment or a single discussion or a single whatever, it's going to group those for you. Yeah, and then it's, so I've got, most of these are individuals, and then this one is 10. That'll actually go up to triple, I think 3 nines, either triple digits or 4 digits. So if you happen to have a class with 10,000 students in it, then it would say 4 nines plus. I hope none of you have classes with 10,000 students. Okay. Changes semester to semester, right? So I'm going to go into my Intro to Psychology course here. So I'm off the dashboard. I'm into a specific course. This is the homepage for this course. It's the syllabus. You can actually customize what shows up on the homepage. So you can have the what's called the activity stream, which is notifications about just what's happening in this course. A custom front page, which is just a totally blank slate. You can put any kind of stuff on it you like. You could have your students land directly in the course modules, which we'll see more of in a minute. A lot of instructors like to just say, you know what, I don't need a fancy cover. I just want them to get directly into the content. I like to use the syllabus because I get this freeform area at the top where I can sort of put whatever content I like, but then I also get some sort of nice free features. You will see as the demo goes on that I'm a big fan of robot work. I want to do what's important for me to do, and then I want the robots to do the boring stuff. So at the top here, I've set up a nice little banner. I've got some information about my office hours. I have a link to my syllabus. You can actually print the Canvas syllabus. Like if I just printed this web page, it will intelligently strip away all the Chrome and the navigation and just give them the content. But if you work for an old school department like I do, they still want me to provide a PDF to them. So I've embedded a PDF right here in the page. And you can see this actually opens right in the browser. Right, so this is actually just rendering it right here in Canvas, and this will work for PDFs, Word docs, PowerPoint slides, Excel spreadsheets, right, kind of all the common document formats, and that's across mobile as well. So if my students are reviewing PowerPoint slides or an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF or something on the go from their mobile app, it's going to display just exactly the same as it does here in the web browser, right? So I don't have to worry about them having, the most up-to-date version of PowerPoint. Underneath that, I've got some links to my lessons that go into the modules. And then when I talk about stuff for free, this is really the big win right here for me, is every semester I tend to teach the same courses, right? Most of us teach the same courses semester after semester. And every time you have to crack open Word or your PDF editor, you got a big table with all the due dates. You got to go in and change all those dates. It doesn't affect anything else in the universe, so that's one of many places you have to make those changes. So we just automated that. So anything I have in my course that has a due date or a score shows up on this list, just like it would in your syllabus. If I delete it, it comes off of here. If I change it, it changes it here. Just like if you remember, I had that paper that was due on Saturday and I dragged it over to Friday. So here is my syllabus already updated. I didn't have to come in here and update it. We didn't even have to know that the due date would be on here. We just know that anywhere the due date is, it's going to be correct, right? And that's what we care about. So what about all this stuff? How did I get all that content up there? This tool is what we call our rich content editor. So surely you have opened a Word document or send an email sometime in the last 10 years. So a lot of these buttons will look quite familiar. So I can make some bold text, not bold text, right? So there's the B, and I can change colors, and I can change the color of the highlight, right? All the kind of familiar rich text options we're used to from any modern text editor or email client. But what about getting like interesting stuff in, right? Not just formatted text. So one of the things we found was people want to be able to link around in their course. So I could say something like, go check out and now instead of just saying modules list, I can actually select the modules list from this list of links. And now this is a live link that will take my students to the modules. And I can do that for any type of content in Canvas. I can send them to a specific quiz or to a specific content page or even to a specific module, not just the general module list. I can send them to a certain place in that list, right? We've seen some really cool things faculty have done with this. Anybody remember the old like choose your own adventure books? Where it's like go to page 20 if you want to fight the dragon, that kind of thing. We've seen some people actually use this to kind of gamify their course. It's like if you're ready to fight the dragon, click here to take the test. If you think you need to go work out a little bit more, click here and you go take this practice quiz, right? So you can kind of transform your content into also functioning as navigation around within the content. But that's not very visually exciting. What about images? So I want to pull an image into my course. I don't have one ready-made. I'm not going to make one. I wasn't provided one by my publisher. Anyone ever just go out to Google and like you Google for something, right, and you save it, right? There's some casual nodding, so we're all complicit in that copyright theft because we know not to do that. Yeah? We've all done it. I do it all the time. We're educators. Nobody's ever going to come after us. But we should operate above board whenever possible. So what we have built in is this Creative Commons search. And if you're not familiar with Creative Commons, this is a way for nice, talented people to say, I made a thing, you can use this thing for free. So I know that any images that come up in this search are tagged Creative Commons, so I know that they're all okay for me to use in my course. So I can search for, not surfing dogs. It was cats earlier, but I think surfing dogs is good for now. There we go. Just drops that right in. I didn't have to go to Flickr. I didn't have to download the image, right? It just puts it right in there. And if I'm not happy with the preview, I can click and drag to resize, just like you expect to be able to do. And then, boom, I have an image in my course, right? You saw how the files get in, right? So I can upload files individually on the fly, or I can upload them in bulk by dragging and dropping them right into the files area. I think images and video are a lot more exciting than files though. So let's get a YouTube video in here. So anybody who's ever tried to use a YouTube video in a course, you gotta go to YouTube, you gotta get that embed code, right? And you gotta go back, you gotta go into the HTML editor, and you gotta find the spot where you need it, and you gotta paste it. It's like 50 steps for one, and even if you know how to do all that, it's 50 steps. Some people are not comfortable getting in there and mucking around with the code. So we have this built-in YouTube search, which will just search any publicly available video on YouTube. And then I can drop that in. If I don't like the size of the preview, again, I can just click and drag to resize, just like I did with the image. And then I have a YouTube video in my content, right? No embed codes. I didn't have to muck around with any of that. I didn't even have to go to YouTube, right? I just told YouTube to send the video to me. And then the last one I'll highlight in here is, what if I just want to make a video, right? What if I just want to welcome my students to the class? I can actually, using the media recorder, or the media comment tool, give this access to my webcam and microphone. And I can say, hello students, welcome to the class. Make sure you read the whole syllabus because there is a syllabus quiz, and then when you're done, go up there to the modules because this is the syllabus, there's no course content here. And then if I'm happy with that, I can save it. It drops that video right in, right? I didn't have to use special software. I didn't have to edit anything in Camtasia or something like this and then upload it. You can upload videos through there, so if you have something prepared or if you recorded a lecture or something that you want to upload, you can. But you can see it's super easy to just make stuff right on the fly too. And then if we save this to take a look at my work here, you can see I've got my Flickr image that I dropped in, my modules link. One thing I will mention about that is that's linking to the modules in this course, right? So what happens when I teach this course again next semester? Is it going to link back to the modules in this course? Of course not. It's smarter than that. It'll know to link to the modules in that new course. So when I link around to the content inside of a course using the rich content editor, I know that those links are going to stay fresh, even if I teach that course semester after semester. I've got my surfing dogs video, and then, of course, my kind of really brightly lit forehead there. I'm going to play just a second of this surfing dogs video. Has anyone ever actually been at the beach or out at the bay and like ever seen this happen? Because I mean, there's like 1,000 videos on YouTube. It must be happening somewhere. So the reason I played that little intro was not to give that guy ad dollars, but to point out that there was no ad, right? So our YouTube embed actually strips the pre-roll ad off. So if you want to link to a TED video in your course, you don't have to worry that your students are going to be like, you know what, I should consider my insurance provider. They're going to just get right into the actual content. Two things I will say about the rich content editor before I wrap on that is, one, our engineers are like any good engineers, which means they don't want to build the same thing more than once. So even though we were just editing the syllabus, that's exactly how you would edit an assignment or a quiz or a discussion or a page. Any content in Canvas that you're authoring is that exact same set of tools with the same buttons in the same order, right? So you're not having to learn how to edit each of those things separately because it's the same tool. And then the second thing is that rich content editor is also what students use when they're authoring content. So when a student is submitting an assignment, when a student is posting to a discussion, when a student is answering an essay quiz question, they get those same buttons in the same order. So not only can you provide rich content to them quite easily, but you can also tell them they have to provide it back, right? They can use that media recorder, they can record themselves talking directly into Canvas. We've seen some very cool things with foreign language courses where there's a quiz with no text, right? It's just video of the instructor speaking in a foreign language, and then the student has to reply in a foreign language, right? It's just back and forth like that. These are things that these modern tools give us that we just didn't have before. So when you are making a recording, it actually won't cut you off. My personal recommendation is if you get into 2-digit numbers of minutes, you're probably going too long. And the reason for that is not a technological limitation, but one, it is a Broadway play, not a Hollywood movie, so there's no editing, right? So if you get to minute 119 of your 2-hour opus and then you have a sneezing fit, like you either leave that sneezing fit in or you have to start over. And then another thing is we just know all the research indicates that no one watches videos that long, right? So lots of small videos always perform better with students, with adults, with faculty, with just everybody if there's lots of short videos. If you are uploading a video, so if you have something prepared and you're using that tool to upload a file, there's a 500 meg limit, but even at a relatively high quality, that's still a pretty long video. I didn't repeat that question, but I think I answered it verbosely enough that I'm going to count it as like a win by proxy. Any other questions? Okay, let's go into my course modules. So there's quite a few ways you can organize a course in Canvas. I could just give my students a big assignments list. I could just give them a bunch of files in the files area and say, here you go, weed through the course content. When I teach, I always use the modules. When I train faculty, I always encourage them to use modules because not only is it, I think, a really nice way to build the course, but you get a little bit of stuff for free. Like I said, big fan of robots doing the work whenever possible. And some of those things you get are due dates and scores. So anything that has a due date or a score, it's just going to show up here automatically. And if you remember, again, I had that Critical Thinking 1 paper, and I changed the due date on it. Where was it? There it is. I changed it from the 13th to the 12th, and there it is, updated in the modules. I didn't have to come in here. I don't have to worry about it. I just know it's going to show the correct date. From a course organization standpoint, if I'm looking at my module here and I say, you know what, I would really rather this discussion come before this assignment, and I want to reorganize that, now my course is reorganized, right? If you teach a project-based course and you want to rearrange entire modules, I can just grab a whole module and drag that and reorganize, right? So I have as many modules as I need, right? Because they're just containers of stuff. And I can put as much or as few things into each module as I like. So you can see I've got my welcome module here that I collapsed. I've got my lesson 1 and lesson 2 and lesson 3, but I could just as easily have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, week 1, week 2, week 3, right? However you guys chunk out your content. And then for the later modules, I'm actually using an advanced feature that we call prerequisites and requirements. So we're all used to kind of gatekeeping by dates. You know, everything opens on Monday and then it's due on Friday that week, that kind of thing. But I can also set up these prerequisites and requirements and say, no, before this content unlocks, you have to view this other content. Or maybe I want them to participate in this discussion, or I want them to take a quiz and I want them to get a minimum score on that quiz, right? And you can use these things in conjunction. You can use them as what we call or requirements, so they have to do this or that, or this or that, and the other thing, right? So you can actually get quite robust in how you're gatekeeping their progress through the course. So now instead of just allowing time to pass, and that means they can move on to the next module or the next chapter or the next lesson or the next project, you can make them actually show that they've made a certain amount of engagement, participated a certain amount, showed a certain amount of mastery through scores on quizzes and assignments and things. And because you can use all those in conjunction, you can really get into a big, complicated web of requirements. So let's go into a specific assignment here. So the assignment instructions at the top, same rich content editor we saw before, so I won't go into that too much. And then underneath that, I have a rubric attached. Two things to notice about the rubric. This does not have to be a true matrix. So you can have some criteria that are pass-fail. You can have some criteria that have 3 possible ratings, or 4, or 5, or 10, or 1,000, or no rating, and it's just a free-form scale. So I can have each criteria kind of operate independently of itself, or of the others rather. And then the other thing to notice is these little kind of gold tags on the left side. And that's saying that that criteria is tied to an outcome. So that might be an outcome I've created, that might be an outcome my program is tracking, or my department, or that the institution is tracking, right? And I want that data to just roll up. I don't want to have to hand collect all this and then go report it to my dean or a chair or somebody. I just want to focus on evaluating my students and then let them worry about reporting and stuff on the back end. And all I have to know is that, yep, those 3 are outcomes. So I know that that data will be tied to those outcomes. But assignment instructions are boring. The grading interface is really where you're going to spend more of your time as an instructor. So what you're seeing here is our Speedgrader. We've had multiple institutions poll their own faculty and do their own kind of in-house research, and several of them have said that they've actually cut their grading time in half. So if you're a big fan of using grading late into the night as an excuse, sorry, you can still use that excuse, I guess, and just actually do fun things with all of your extra time. But what we wanted to do with the Speedgrader was get you out of the business of all of the minutia around grading. So if you take written work, like I take a lot of written work from my students, or project work, right, where they're sending you files, you got to beg them, please name it first name underscore last name underscore the name of the class underscore the name of the assignment, right, underscore final really final one, right, exclamation point .docx. And then it turns out that they have an old version of Word, so it doesn't open in your version of Word, and then they named it wrong, you don't know who it is or what assignment it is. You shouldn't have to deal with any of that because none of that actually involves evaluating them or helping them get useful feedback, right? So you can see I'm viewing this document actually inside of Canvas in the Speedgrader. Just like we saw it present a document earlier, I'm just viewing this right here. And this will do all of the common kind of document file types, right? Just like the other reader will do, as well as things like images and videos will all show right in here. On the right side, I can see when this submission was made. This one happened to be late, so it's flagged that it was late, so there's never any guesswork that I have to do there. I know exactly what assignment this is. I know exactly which student this is, right? So I'm completely out of the business of file management. I'm just working on evaluating this student. I have my rubric that I can click through. So if you're using hard points on each one of your criteria, it'll actually just total that up for you and then make the change right there. I can leave freeform comments on the side as well as private media comments. So just like I made that video on my syllabus, I can actually leave private audio video feedback right here in the Speedgrader. I know that it's private just between me and the student, or if it was a group assignment, it would be private just between me and the members of that group. But the star of this is really that I can write all over it. So I can grab a pencil here and draw a big star. Capital work, student. I can point to specific things and say, I don't know what this means. Google didn't either. Right? If there's a whole big area of nonsense, you can select a whole area and just, right? So what you're kind of getting here is almost like I have a printed copy of this document, right? My student turned it in. I'm going to write all over it, and then I'm going to give it back to him, right? But where the Speedgrader really shines to me as a student-centered tool is that when a student comes in to look at this feedback, this is exactly what they see. So they can come in here and grab a different color, and they can draw their own little thing on the top, right? They can come in here and reply to these comments and leave their own comments. You can see on the side here, there's actually two different pictures because the student and the teacher are having a conversation about this document right here on the document. So you're never gonna get an email from surfingdog89@hotmail.com where they say, about that comment you left me on my homework, and you're like, who are you? What are you talking about, right? Because all the context is just provided for me right here. They can even leave those same media comments right back to you, right? So you can have that back and forth face-to-face style office hours, but distributed out over hours or days or even the entire length of the course, because this is available and open to them as long as you want to leave it that way. This happens to be an assignment, so I'm grading a document that a student uploaded, but this is the exact same grading interface I would see for a discussion or for essay quiz questions, right, that I have to manually grade, right? So just like we don't have more than one rich content editor you have to learn, we don't have more than one Speedgrader you have to learn. There's just the Speedgrader. And something I think I actually may have forgotten to mention to the group that I spoke to earlier is there's a mobile app just for this. So if you're an iPad person or an Android tablet person and you want to be able to grade on the go, there's actually a dedicated Speedgrader app. And then another thing that I know I definitely forgot to mention to the earlier group is this entire interface is what a student uses if you assign peer reviews. So when students are being assigned to peer evaluate each other, they just get the same suite of evaluation tools you would use as an instructor. The only limitation, of course, is they can't set a grade. That'd be shenanigans if they could be like grading each other all over the place. But they can fill out the rubric, right? So you can still have them fully evaluate each other. They can leave comments, they can write all over it, right? They get the full grading experience. They don't get to just give their buddies A's though. Any questions about the Speedgrader before I go back? Yeah. So the only thing that can be, I guess what you would consider disabled in the Speedgrader is I can anonymize things. So I can say I don't want to see any students' names. But as far as the markup features and the commenting features, those are just Speedgrader functionality. So the only way to disable those would be to just not use the Speedgrader. No, students can absolutely reply to each one of those comments. Yeah, so let me answer those two things separately. So yes, the document format will be completely preserved. We're actually doing some technical wizardry in the background to make sure that that happens. So if they upload something, this document is just very boring lorem ipsum text, but if there were headers and colors and embedded images and margins of a specific size, all that stuff would be preserved. So yeah, there's no loss of fidelity there. The Turnitin integration, does that count as repeating it? He asked about Turnitin integration. The Turnitin integration, they've done through the LTI connection, which is that kind of open standard that I mentioned for how these tools talk to each other. So what you get with that is an enhancement to the Canvas functionality. It doesn't override it. So if you're using Turnitin for plagiarism detection, it gives you a link to their plagiarism report. The student can also see their report unless you deactivate that on the Turnitin side. But the grading can still happen here. So I know Turnitin has their grading tool, which you can use if you want to, but it doesn't deactivate or change or alter the Speedgrader in any way. So if you want to use it just for reporting, you can. Yeah, so the question was, can you can comments? So I don't have any because I just haven't put any into this rubric, but you can actually save canned comments in the rubric and then reuse those for those criteria. So if you have a criteria that's, you have to spell good, right? And then you notice your students are not spelling good. Instead of saying you don't spell good over and over, you could have that canned comment and just put it in. And you just get a drop down of all your canned comments and you would select from them. Yeah, if you wanted to use those, the symbols themselves, right, there are ways to do that through the keyboard. But if you wanted comments to go with them, you would have to can those, yeah. Yeah, we don't have like pre-canned MLA, for example. So the question was about how could students answering quiz questions draw a graph, like a coordinate plane, right, into their answer. So there's a couple parts to that. Let me kind of tease that out. So I've gone into a quiz, and I'm going to jump right to the questions, but then I'll go back to the settings in a second. So if I'm looking at my quiz, there's a few different ways you could do like math, engineering kind of notation, depending on your needs are. We don't have the ability to do graphs directly in the rich content editor. The good news is there are several free tools that do that hook right into the rich content editor that I've seen engineering and math and statistics faculty use, business faculty, that kind of thing. So what you would see is an extra button here in the rich content editor just specifically for graphing, right? And it's a tool designed just for that's all that it does, so it does that well because it's only trying to do that one job. So that's not native, but there are free tools that do that, and we'll talk about how those connections are made in a second. For other kind of math-related things, we do have this LaTeX editor. I apologize, it has been a long time since I did any more advanced math than like calculating a tip at a restaurant. But what you're seeing here is a visual way to get math in. So I could say, like, give me the cube root of 9, and then I want this function of X, I don't know, I'm sure this is all garbage, but you get the point, right? So if you know math, there's a very nice kind of like point and click interface. What's significant about this for anyone who uses these kinds of formula regularly in their courses is for those of us who are sighted, this just looks like an image and everything is fine. But underneath, this is actually using the LaTeX and the Math ML web standard so that a screen reader can read this. So by creating this equation using the editor, when it shows up there, a screen reader will get to that and then read it correctly. Whereas if I just uploaded a snapshot of a Post-it note with my handwriting on it, screen reader does not know what to do with that. So that's one of the kind of built-in benefits. That would absolutely be an option. So the student could, they could draw it out, take a picture of it. They could draw it on their computer and then just upload the image file. Yeah, those would be completely viable options. But there are native graph building tools that can be connected as well. So really, it's just whichever one of those solutions you wanted to go with. While we're here looking at the questions, you can see the question types that are available in quizzes. Multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, multiple blanks, multiple answers, multiple drop-downs, matching numerical formula. Those all have a correct answer. So you can tell Canvas what the correct answer is, and it will grade the student automatically. Numerical and formula in particular, again, right, I'm kind of limited on my mathematics, but you can get fairly robust in what kinds of formulas you give to the students, including things like randomizing variables so that each student gets a slightly different version of an otherwise identical question. And then these last two, essay and file upload, those are the ones you would get those to-do notifications about because it obviously won't auto-grade an essay question, right? So I would see a notification that says something like, you got a quiz submission, but there's an essay question you need to go in there and evaluate, right? Otherwise, if the whole quiz was auto-graded, I don't even get a notification because there's no action for me to take. Within a quiz question, you can see I have the rich content editor, so I can put videos and links and images and documents and things just like I could in my syllabus. I can also use rich content within the answers. So in this multiple choice example, I could have a formula or a video or a link or an image or a document, right? Any of that stuff can be in there. But then we also have this idea of item level feedback. So each item in my quiz question can have its own unique feedback. So if it's right, what's the feedback they see? If it's wrong, what's the feedback they see? If it's wrong in this other but different way, what's the feedback they see for that? And that feedback can also have rich content in it, which means I could embed a video they should review, I can embed a link back to a different part of my course where there's materials they need to go over, or a practice quiz that they should take before they come back to this, the real deal kind of exam. Anything that I could do with rich content anywhere else, I have available at the question level, at the response level, and then even in that feedback level. The thing I really love about this idea of kind of item level feedback is now I've taken my sort of flat, kind of boring, like, hey, you got a 7 out of 10, awesome job, maybe. You don't know what a 7 out of 10 means. And now I've turned this into a useful way for them to go figure out what they didn't do right so they can do it right next time, to go push what they already did right to the next stage, right? And now I'm incentivized to let them take this quiz more than once, because now I want them to go review materials and then come back, take the quiz again. We didn't talk about question banks since we came here through kind of a roundabout way, but we support question banks. You can have multiples within a single quiz. So say you're teaching from a textbook and you have a question, a chapter 1 question bank, a chapter 2 question bank, chapter 3. Each time a student takes that quiz, they're going to get random questions from those banks. And even if it's the same student taking it multiple times, they're going to get randomized questions every single time, right? So I'm incentivized as an instructor to allow them to take it more than once. They're incentivized as a student to want to take it more than once because they're getting this rich feedback. They can go and improve and come back, try and get a better score. Popping back over to the settings side of the quiz, again, with the general quiz instructions, same rich content editor we've seen everywhere else. I can do things like randomize the answer option choices, give them a time limit, decide how many attempts they get, if and when they can see feedback, if they can, for how long, what are they allowed to see. And then we didn't talk about due dates with assignments, but since we have our quiz settings open, assignments, due dates are another one of those things that works the same everywhere. So whether it's a quiz or an assignment or a discussion, same way due dates are going to work. And the cool thing here is in the past, what I've had to do sometimes is I have a student, right? Let's say Aaron comes to me with a sob story and I want to give Aaron an extra week, right? Now I have to create a duplicate of the assignment, give that due date just to Aaron, right? Now I have 2 columns in my gradebook. Well, instead, I can just say, you know what, just give Aaron this different due date. So now for everybody else on their syllabus, on their to-do list, on their calendar, it's going to show February 9th. But for Aaron, it's going to show May 17th. He must have come to me with a real sob story to get like 2.5 extra months. But you see, I didn't have to create a duplicate assignment. I don't end up with duplicate columns in the gradebook, right? This can also work for groups and sections. So I can say this group has a different due date than that group because they meet on Monday and Wednesday, they meet on Tuesday and Thursday, right? Without having to set up a new assignment or a new quiz or a new discussion each one of those times. And that's going to work the same across the board there. So I'm going to jump back out of my quiz and go into the course settings. This first page, the course details, this is the stuff that is going to come right out of Banner, right? So the course name, when it starts, when it stops, the SIS information. This is not stuff you're going to have to set up by hand. You can see it all in here, but most of the time you're going to come to the settings and just be like, yep, that was set up by a robot. I don't really care. What you are more interested in most likely is this navigation tab. So you can see up on the projector that some of my items are kind of a light gray and some of them are a darker gray. And what's happening is I've hidden some of those items so that when my students come in, they're only going to see a smaller version of this navigation. This doesn't deactivate the tool, so my quizzes still work, my assignments still work. It just hides it from the navigation. And the reason you might do that is because you want them to just focus on the tools you care about. So since I've organized my courses into modules, they don't need to see an undifferentiated list of assignments and an undifferentiated list of quizzes. And if you're wondering, well, what might that look like to one of my students? We have this handy-dandy built-in student view. So I can click on that student view, and when I get the big magenta box, I know I'm in the right place. My navigation has gotten shorter, right? My ability to edit has completely gone away. But this isn't just a view that a student would have. I've actually been transformed into a test student. I can take assignments and quizzes, I can post discussions, I can then switch back to being an instructor and evaluate myself. Right? So you never have to beg IT to create a fake student and enroll them into all your courses. You never have to wonder, if I didn't know what I know, would this course make any sense? Will a student know how to go through this course? Because I can come in here and see exactly what things look like, right? And if I go to my later modules here, I can't get to these items because this student has not met the requirements. But I could. I could go through and do everything that was required and see that everything works the way I expected to, and what they should see, they're seeing, and what they shouldn't see is hidden, right? So we want you to be able to kind of empathize with that experience as much as possible, and certainly not without having to beg someone to enroll John Fake Student into all of your courses every semester. So a couple other things I will highlight here in the settings is or one other thing I wanted to show is the import tool. So whether you're bringing content in from another system, like Moodle, for example, or if you are teaching the same course over and over and you want to move your course content into your new shell in the fall and then the spring and then the fall and the spring, you would use the same import tool. So let's say I want to copy one of my past courses in. I can choose whether I want to bring all my content or just some of it, right? So instead of bringing everything in and then carving out the stuff I don't want to use, I can say I just want to bring in this certain content off the bat. But then really another one of those faculty favorite things is this ability to adjust events and due dates. So this isn't connected to a real student information system, but your courses will know when they start and end. So these boxes would actually already be populated for you. And that means that when you move this content in, it's going to say, oh, you want me to take all your fall dates and turn them into spring dates. Oh, you want me to take all those spring 2016 dates and turn them into fall 2016 dates, right? And it's just going to slide all that stuff right over. And if you're unlucky like me and your courses go from being Monday, Wednesday to Tuesday, Thursday, you can also do this day substitution. So not only will it slide things forward in time to the new term, but it'll actually nudge them to the right day of the week that you want them to be on, right? And there's things that the SIS doesn't know about, right? Because that's where we're getting this date information. If there's I think earlier someone said, you guys, since you don't get snow days, you get earthquake days. So if it's too sunny and beautiful and nobody's going to come to work that day and everybody just goes out to the bay and you need to make those little nudge changes, that's why we made that calendar feature so easy to just drag and drop, right? So this will get you 95% of the way to setting up your new dates in your new semester. And then if you do need to make a quick change, you can always just open the calendar and do that quick drag and drop to make those polishing marks. So the question, and I'm about to share this with the folks for the recording, but the question was around kind of the tedium of grading discussions, which hopefully you won't find reflected here. So I have a discussion. They're called threads or prompts, depending on which school you come from. My prompt can have whatever kind of rich content in it, just like we've seen everywhere else. My replies can also have rich content in them, just like we've seen everywhere else. So I can reply, with a video or with links or documents or all these things. I had a colleague who his entire introduce yourself discussion, instead of the boring, like, where'd you go to high school, what's your favorite ice cream, he made them all hum their favorite TV show theme song, and then everybody had to guess. The way he made that work is you can restrict students from posting until they've posted, so they can't see any other replies until they've made an initial post. But you can see, right, it's a forum, it operates very much the way you would expect a discussion thread to. They can be graded or not graded, that kind of thing. And if you are grading a discussion thread, and I apologize, this is a very short one, but you can see the student that I'm grading, their posts will show up here in the Speedgrader. So if the student had multiple posts, it would show me all of their posts. And then right here, I have this option to view it in context. So it will actually show me their posts highlighted where they were replying. So this one just says, yeah, well, that's not super useful. I might need to see what that's replying to. So I would be able to view that full discussion and it would show it all in line. But any comments I leave, the rubric that I fill out, the grade that I give them, because we're in the Speedgrader, that's still all private to me and the student, right? So if I comment over here, that is not me posting on the discussion board. So I can post, right? I can interact with my students just like they can interact with each other, but I can also leave private feedback when I'm evaluating them. So one other thing I wanted to make a point to highlight, and then Eddie can tell me all the things that I probably forgot, and then we'll have some time just for kind of open Q&A. But two things that I always like to highlight is now that you've seen sort of, the tools that are in there, students viewing pages, they're participating in discussions, they're submitting assignments. What does data look like for that? So we have analytics that are just built into every course. So every instructor just gets these for free in their course. I can see activity over time. I can see submissions over time, and this is a breakdown of on time, late, and missing. My students, since they are mostly imaginary, have not been performing very well. You can see a lot of missed assignments. The grade breakdown is going to show me, the min, medium, low, and then the percentiles at the extremes. And then I can even dive into an individual student. So I can see just this student's activity, just this student's communication back and forth with me as an instructor, just this student's submission breakdown, their grades compared to the rest of the class. And my favorite thing about this is not just how useful this is for me as an instructor, students can see this. A student can go in and actually look at their own analytics and say like, wow, I have just missed basically everything. Like I am not bringing my A game to this course, right? So they are getting useful information presented to them, just like you guys are getting it for you in your course design and your interactions with students. And then the one other thing that I will highlight before I kind of leave it open for questions is at the bottom down here on the left, there's this help button, and there's lots of neat stuff in here, but the one that really matters the most is the Canvas guides. Canvas is versionless software, right? It's hosted in the cloud. It's maintained entirely by us. We have a dedicated documentation team, and we're updating every 3 weeks, which for people who are used to kind of the old school way of software design seems really intimidating. But because we're updating so frequently, what that really means is we can make lots of small changes instead of one huge change every 18 or 24 months, right? And because we are hosting it in the cloud, there's only Canvas. There isn't my Canvas and your Canvas and Stanford's Canvas and UC Denver's Canvas. There's just Canvas. So our documentation team can always keep the documentation up to date because they don't have to maintain it for 1,000 different versions. I was an admin for a long time, and one of the most boring things I had to do with my life was maintain documentation because we had our own version of the software that was slightly different than everyone else's. And you can come in here to the guides. You can search for things like, import from Moodle. That's a totally random example. Can't imagine how that coincidence happened. But when you come into a guide, you can see these are all going to be full of screenshots. If it's in a step-by-step guide, there's going to be exact, clear step-by-step instructions. And all of this is completely public. So you don't have to have an account. You don't have to be a customer. This is all just public on the web. Anybody can look at our guides. The only time you have to log in is if you want to participate in any of the discussions. So these are excellent, excellent resources that are just maintained for you and out there and completely available for instructors and students as well. So we have, 12, 15 minutes left? Like I said, there's lots more in Canvas that I could share, but I do want to make sure I reserved at least a little bit of time for open questions. So if you guys have any specific questions or if there's specific functionality you were curious about, this would be the time. Yeah, so the question was about preventing students from seeing, I guess, other student replies before they post or until they've posted their own reply. So that is a setting for a discussion. So if I'm in this discussion and I'm setting this up, I have users must post before seeing replies. To save you the trouble of reading 600, I agree with John's because John's post was really good, right? So Canvas is all built on top of modern web standards, and all that really means is they don't need Java, they don't need Flash, they don't need Silverlight or any weirdness, right? They just need access to a modern web browser. So we support the big four, right? So Internet Explorer, which is sort of now Edge, and then Firefox, Safari, and Chrome. So that'll work across platforms. So if they're on a Windows machine or a Linux machine or an Apple, those are all going to work fine. So any library computer they're likely to walk up to on campus or at a public library, those are all going to work fine. For mobile devices, iOS and Android are supported, so they can use our dedicated mobile apps, which we provide for free. Anybody who's a Canvas user can get those. Because we're seeing that more and more, right? Where somebody's first computer is their smartphone, and they don't even have what we think of as like a real computer. And our mobile apps are very centered around what it makes sense to do on mobile. As an instructor, I probably wouldn't want to build an entire course with my thumbs. But as a student, I might actually take an entire course from a smartphone, and students can do that. So a student can submit assignments, they can post to discussions, they can take quizzes, they can view videos and go through your content. So if the only computer or the primary computer available to a student is a smart device, right, not a traditional computer, there's a really good chance they could still take your entire course. Yeah, like a webinar kind of functionality? Yeah. Was that counted as repeating that question, right? So we call that conferences in Canvas. We're using an open source tool called Big Blue Button that's just built into every course and into every group actually as well. So anybody that has access to this can come in here and create a conference. And I say anybody who has access because you can leave this open to students. You can allow them to set up their own web conferences if you'd like. And even if you've never heard of Big Blue Button, this looks and functions very much like any web conferencing tool you're probably familiar with. I can do screen sharing or document sharing in the middle. I can do whiteboard stuff where I can write all over it. I have a text chat. I can do webcams and microphones, right? So very similar functionality, just built right into every course and every group. So if you group your students as well for group work, they get access to all of these tools to do that collaborative group work, just like you would have when you're creating your courses. And then we also have integrations with a lot of the big players like WebEx and Zoom and GoToMeeting and those as well. Do you guys already have a campus-wide solution that you're using? So Zoom does have an LTI that they maintain, so you could integrate that into Canvas. Big Blue Button's already there and available to you, and there's reasons to use both. This is designed for stuff within a course. If you wanted to offer something to the community, right, where anyone from the public could log in, Zoom would be a way better candidate for that. But for virtual office hours, for group work, for recorded lectures, that kind of thing, Big Blue Button's there, it's built in, it's free, it's available. So for assignments, hopefully you can do a lot of your grading in Speedgrader, but depending on your subject, sometimes you can't. Like if you teach a computer science class, right? Is that what you teach? Yes. So you're going to need to get those files, right? So we just have a download submissions button right there. And that will just download all the submissions to this assignment. It folders them up for you by the name of the student. So even if they named it something really stupid, at least it's grouped underneath their name so that you can find it. Yeah. That'll also, for your particular case, I should also mention, assignments will accept multiple files. So if they need to upload, like, say, 3 text files and also a couple images, when I hit this download submission, it'll put all of that stuff into each of their folders. So it's kind of nicely packaged. So the question was about maintaining the strict formatting that code requires. So you can, in the content editor, do code blocks with the pre and code HTML tags, which is fine for limited use. What I would encourage you actually is there are 2, I can't remember the names of them, I could find them for you if you like, but there are 2 free LTIs that are in the App Store that are specifically designed for embedding code. So they actually go beyond just indentation. They'll do line numbers, they'll do color formatting depending on the language that the code is written in. So it's way better than just preserving 2 spaces or tabs or whatever. So for someone who's teaching like a computer science class, I would say use that tool over using the native thing. The nice thing about the way those LTIs work, though, is it just becomes a feature of this content editor. So you can still have, text, video, and then a block of code. It's not its own separate thing. It becomes integrated. Yeah, so the course that's in Canvas, we're never going to delete that. So if they want to just leave it untouched as their kind of master shell, that's one option. But where I would probably steer that person is toward using commons, right? So they could take, this is our learning object repository, so they could take their course and in its Q2 version, right? And then they could save that whole course or pieces of that course into Canvas Commons. And then when they wanted to use that later, they can just go in and grab it out of Canvas Commons and import it into a future course. Yeah, and this is just part of Canvas, right? This is a feature and functionality that's just available to every instructor to store content personally or to share with their peers or even to share publicly. Yes, they can commonly share it with just themselves. Yeah, that is actually, I think that was feature 1 for Commons was private sharing, and then we wanted to expand out from there. So it's my Commons, and then it's our Commons, and then it's everyone's Commons, but it's mine first. Yeah, Commons is the name of the functionality. Yeah, you're not required to give everything back to the public, although you're welcome to. Good. Thank you guys so much for coming.